On Wednesday, May 27th, the Arizona Diamondbacks beat the San Francisco Giants and moved to 31-24. Just 2 weeks and 1 day later, they're 34-34. Let's talk about it.
On the spin, fires for the win! Got it!
The World Series.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the AZ Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Humphreys, and just as I will every week, every episode, we're talking Diamondbacks, we're talking Suns, and we're talking Cardinals. We're also going to talk maybe a little Wildcats and a little Sun Devils as well, but for the most part, this podcast is going to stick through the three main professional sports teams in Arizona. Hopefully hockey can come back so we can get back to the big four, But for now, we're sticking with the big three, and we're starting off with the Diamondbacks today. And if you're a Diamondbacks fan like I am, as you can see by the shirt, it's been rough. It's been a rough 2 weeks, especially, at 31-24. Seemed like everyone except for Zach Gallen had figured it out in the pitching rotation. Turns out that was just the Rockies and the Giants being bad at offense. We thought that the offense had figured some things out. Turns out Ketel Marte's hot streak was just in that stretch. He's been very, very cold outside of his walk-off home run against the Dodgers, which was epic. He's been very cold since then. Corbin Carroll has dropped off a little bit, but he's still, over a 900 OPS right now. But the Diamondbacks just can't score. They were swept by the Miami Marlins, who don't even have that great of pitching, and they were swept. In 2 of those games, they didn't score a run. The last 2 games, they didn't score a run. This offense is in absolute free fall. They just are. It's getting to the point where Marte and Perdomo, 2 guys that were awesome last season, Marte's been awesome the last few years, just aren't getting it done. We had Ildemaro Vargas had one of the months to remember. Maybe one of the most historic runs ever, definitely in franchise history. He hit in 27 games in a row. He's been MIA since then. Nolan Arenado has had good stretches, but we're relying on a 36-year-old pitcher who's having a resurgent season to carry the offense? I don't think so. Gabriel Moreno's been picking up the slack recently, but that hasn't been enough. The young players that they've brought up, Ryan Waldschmidt, Tommy Troy, Jose Fernandez, those guys have played well, but not well enough that you can depend on them. I believe John Gamadoro has tweeted out, in the last, I don't remember how many games it's been. Maybe it's just the Marlins series, but they went 2 for 30 with runners in scoring position. It's luck. It's bad plate discipline. I have these stats ready to go, guys. The Diamondbacks right now, and this was not updated after today's current game. I'm recording this Thursday night after the Diamondbacks got absolutely trounced. Yeah, so the Diamondbacks are 17th in runs. That'll probably go down a little bit. They're 22nd in team OPS. They're 14th in slugging. They're 26th in on-base percentage. And they're 26th in walks. And they're 17th in batting average. I got it right here. I got it right here, guys. They're just not hitting well. So, some of these guys, like Pavin Smith, I've heard, trust me, the same podcast that you guys are listening to, I'm also big fans of them. Whether it's Snake's Territory or Ain't No Fang or PHNX Diamondbacks. I try, I don't listen to them all every day, but I try and listen when I can. And Jack Summers made a great point. He said that the Diamondbacks brought Pavin Smith back too early. They probably brought Lourdes Gurriel back too early. Both those guys really struggled from behind the plate when they came back to action. I think it's because the Diamondbacks knew like they needed offense and they needed it bad. And they need it bad. And, the bottom is just falling out on this team right now. They did exactly what they were supposed to do when they were playing the Rockies and the Giants. They held serve. But right now they're just not getting it done. And the pitching isn't helping for the most part either. I mean, we have 3 guys in our starting rotation, and if you want to count Brandon Pfaadt in there, 4 out of our 6 pitchers that we thought we could rely on this entire season. Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, all those guys have an above 5.00 ERA. It just can't happen. I don't know what happened. Guys, 3 years ago, this team had Brandon Pfaadt, Merrill Kelly, and Zach Gallen, and those 3 guys took the Diamondbacks to a World Series. They were all great pitchers back then. Merrill's had a couple blow-ups, but for the most part, when he's on, he's still Merrill the mainstay. It's just sometimes the mainstay hasn't showed up this season, and it's really cost the Diamondbacks. Ryan Nelson, I'm not sure what's going on. The numbers say that his fastball's not as good. Teams are hitting him harder this year than they ever have before. He's almost already given up the same amount of home runs through the beginning of June as he did all last season as a starting pitcher. It's just crazy. The Diamondbacks are in an absolute free fall right now. And obviously there's rumors about Ketel Marte, about people being unhappy with him in the clubhouse. I will say, could that be a reason? I don't think it's the reason. But Mike Hazen, Torey Lovullo, like we think this team could be a decent team, but it just isn't coming together. There's pieces to the puzzle on this roster for sure, but Perdomo hasn't held up his end of the bargain. Marte, outside of and don't get me wrong, an incredible stretch, and before that, an incredibly unlucky stretch, just hasn't held up to what the Diamondbacks were hoping for. Maybe, I'm not saying they should have, but maybe they would have been better off and are actually firing on one of those offers this offseason. And now, 2 weeks ago, we were sitting here thinking, man, this team could be buyers at the deadline. Since then, the Corbin Burns injury, just absolutely devastating. Feel like the wind got sucked out of my lungs. All the air in my lungs just done when I heard that news. Just absolutely devastated for him, devastated for the team, devastated for Mike Hazen and Torey Lovullo, who both guys, I'm going to say it like their jobs are on the line. They went to the World Series in 2023. We were like, man, this team has a lot of potential and is on an upward trajectory after making the World Series. It just hasn't happened. It hasn't come together. The Diamondbacks had an incredible offense the last 2 years. Weren't able to capitalize because the defense wasn't that great. The pitching wasn't good. This year, pitching has been better. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez, Michael Soroka. Wow. I mean, 2 guys. Eduardo Rodriguez absolutely should be in the All-Star game, in my opinion. He's been one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. Just an absolute machine this season. Diamondbacks win just about every game he pitches in. Michael Soroka, they signed him as a free agent. It wasn't a splashy move. It wasn't a sexy move. But man, they found a diamond in the rough potentially. They did. Guy's in his late 20s. Will they re-sign him? Probably. Probably not if he continues the pace that he's on. They might have to sell him at the deadline because they know that they can't compete with teams that are making twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much, heck, maybe 5 times as much money in TV revenue, ticket sales. They know they can't. They know they can't outpay teams that have those built-in advantages. So could Soroka end up back on the Braves at the next year? Potentially. Could he go to the Mets? I mean, the Mets will pay just about anyone. Even if they're bad, they'll pay just about anyone. Because it doesn't matter. They got the huge TV deal. They have fans that care, that go to the ballpark every day. Diamondbacks, it's unfortunate, but we just don't have a market to compete with the big teams the way that things are set up right now. And Hazen and Lovullo are doing the best. So I'm not saying I'm calling for their jobs, but man, it just sucks because we want this team to be good. It feels like they have the pieces that where they could potentially be good. We see flashes from so many guys. I mean it's crazy. We like so many guys we're seeing flashes from, but it's just like the consistency on a night in night out basis. This team just it's bad. It's ugly. So uh I don't know. We could talk about, what's the bigger problem? The pitching? Yes, it's a huge problem. The hitting? Absolutely, yes, it's a huge problem. So here's what I'll say. I say it starts with the offense, but uh there are also games where pitching just basically after the first couple of innings, there's just no chance the Diamondbacks are gonna win. So it's been 15 straight games that the Diamondbacks have not led or have started behind. And in the last 15 games, 13 of them they've trailed after the fourth inning. It just it's just hard to win ball games when you fall behind early. I have an answer back shirt. It's in the wash right now because I was hoping we would answer back the Marlins at least once this weekend, but we didn't. Or sorry, this week. We didn't answer back against the Marlins. We didn't. And a few more games like this and we might start hearing rumors of the exact opposite than what we want to hear, which is, hey, so and so is interested in Michael Soroka. So and so might be interested in Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, I would be. This guy's pitching incredible. I mean, we just re-signed Merrill Kelly, but we traded him last trade deadline. Who's to say we won't do it again if the right offer comes along? We got Nolan Arenado having a bounce back year. He's clearly not the future at third base. 2 seasons down the line, 3 seasons down the line. Is that the guy playing third base for the Arizona Diamondbacks? I don't think so. I think what we'd like to have happen is we'd like to have Jose Fernandez or Tommy Troy or any of these guys, right? We'd love to have one of those guys slot in at third base and become the third baseman of the future. Oh, don't let me forget Lou James Groover as well. He's been a guy. Lourdes Gurriel, if he can ever get off the IL, is he a guy at the deadline that we could trade? He hasn't hit well this year, but he's a career above 700 OPS hitter. And typically he'll have a month where he can win you a stretch of games like he did last year before suffering a really unfortunate ACL injury, right? So there's tons of guys on the Diamondbacks roster, and like let's look at Pavin Smith. Pavin Smith statistically, guys, can't talk tonight. Pavin Smith is a guy who's hit pretty well throughout his career. He's not hitting well right now. Probably should have gotten more time in Reno. Doesn't have any options left, so maybe there's a team out there, say the Rockies or the Orioles or the Mariners, teams that we just seem to trade with all the time, right? Teams that we've traded away good players to. We could trade Pavin. I mean, if I'm a team outside the Diamondbacks, I might take a look because I don't think the way Pavin's swinging the bat right now is who he is, and I don't think it's who he's going to be for his career. But it's where he's at right now. I mean, at some point we should see all the young guys up. Fernandez should come back. Tyler Locklear has been playing in Reno for some time. James Groover should stay up. Tommy Troy should stay up. Ryan Waldschmidt should probably stay up. I love Pena Power, but maybe Pena Power is close to playing his last game, or maybe has already played his last game in a Diamondbacks uniform. Not saying they're going to cut him or anything. I don't think they'll do that. But in a very competitive National League, and that just continues for us, unfortunately. Like the Marlins, we ran into a real hot Marlins team. Really hot. I believe they've won 7 out of their last 8. But whatever stretch they're on, they're on a great stretch right now. And then we have to play the Reds, this weekend, and they're in the same predicament as us. They're like, man, we think we're a good team, talented team. Our division is tough. Like the Diamondbacks and the Reds play in really good divisions. Really good divisions. And that's part of it too. If the Diamondbacks were playing in the American League right now, man, probably, we'd probably be like, man, like this losing streak sucks, but it wouldn't feel like the end of the world because it just wouldn't feel like the end of the world. But right now in the National League, going on a losing streak like this feels like everything's falling apart. Everything's bursting at the seams. Yeah. Tough to be a Diamondbacks fan right now. Maybe the guys coming back from injuries, like we're gonna get Puck back soon. I guess Justin Martinez, like maybe he's back in August, but at that point, is it too late? I don't want them to rush him back. Burns, like I don't want them to rush Burns back either. I know he's gonna want to come back, but unless like they're solidly entrenched in a playoff race, there's no reason for Corbin Burns to pitch this season, especially after getting another injury trying to come back, probably quicker than he should. I'm not gonna say that's exactly what happened, but I would imagine that a guy like Burns was pushing himself as hard as he could because he could see the same thing that we see as fans. Like Corbin Burns isn't stupid, and neither are we. I don't think any of us are dumb for thinking that this Diamondbacks team could be a good team, and maybe they still can be a good team. Maybe it's just this feels like the Diamondbacks always go through just a dreadful offensive slump for a month, and then they'll break out of it. And it always seems like August and September, they flip the switch and they really get everything going in the right direction. Unfortunately, it just takes them forever to get there. And it might be too little too late yet again this season. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm podcasting. I'm saying I don't know. So that it's great podcasting. Great podcasting is when you say I don't know. Right? So Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Fott, Ryan Nelson, all above a 5.0 ERA. It's hard to win baseball games like that. Diamondbacks actually were able to do a dang good job of it the last couple of years because they had a top 5 offense. They don't got that this year. It can turn around, but I don't think it's going to turn around to that point. I don't think so, unless, Mike Hazen signed Max Kepler. Maybe he's the lucky stroke that the Diamondbacks need. But it feels like we're at the roulette wheel right now, and we're coming up empty a lot. Okay. Man, that was I don't know about you guys, but that was a freaking downer segment. So I'm going to move to a slightly less downer segment, and that's Devin Booker. So this offseason, I'm going to try and answer one offseason question every single podcast. And this podcast, I'm going to talk about, is Devin Booker declining? Is it a change in his role? And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give you the answer here first. Again, great podcasting. I am not sure. I think it's probably a combination of both. So here's what I've deduced. I've deduced that Devin Booker has become a less aggressive scorer by necessity and by how defenses are playing him. He's become a much better creator and become a much more cerebral player. He's much smarter, more able to read defenses better. He's able to do all those things really well. Third thing, I do think he's lost a little bit of a first step, and I think a lack of a 3-point shot is really hurting his ability to create easier offense for himself, whether that's at the rim, in the mid-range. I think there's a lot going on here, and I think it's a very complicated issue. So here's what I have with Booker. So, and this is just kind of an example of, the kind of changes that he's made to his game over the last few years. So In 2020, 2021, Devin Booker was 4th in first quarter scoring. And guess who was on the team that season? It was Chris Paul. That's right. Then in 21-22, he was 2nd in first quarter scoring. In 2022-2023, he was 6th in first quarter scoring. In 23-24, now this is after Chris Paul was off the team. This is the first year of the KD Beal experience, but he was definitely still kind of who he was trying to still be who he had been, right? He was 5th in first quarter scoring that season. Then in 24-25, when he assumed a lot more of the playmaking responsibilities, he went 16th and he went to 16th in first quarter scoring. And then this season in 25-26, he was 14th in first quarter scoring. So look, are those numbers still seriously good? Yes. Is a top 10 player in the world good? No, it's absolutely not. It's absolutely not top 10 player in the world good. Right? Like you look at the other guys on those lists, it's Luka, it's Kevin Durant, all the names you can think of, big time first quarter scorers. Surprise. And guess what? I don't think it's entirely because Devin Booker's washed. I think it's because he's really had to play point guard the last 2 years, and he comes into games knowing that defenses are going to be keeping 2 on the ball with him a lot of the time. Defenses are going to be shading over to him. So you know what? He's always been a guy that makes the right play. And so in the first quarter, he's trying to get other guys going. He's trying to set up his teammates, and he's going to let the game come to him. I think that's been a huge difference in kind of his development as a player. Now, you can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And I would say for the Suns to be at their absolute best, I would say it's a bad thing. Now, by necessity, he's had to do it because there haven't been that many great point guards on the roster. We've had Colin Gillespie, who was pretty good last season, but, oftentimes, especially to end the season, he wasn't even bringing the ball up. It was still Booker and it was Jalen Green who were the guys initiating offense, and Colin Gillespie was spotting up and creating when he had to. But he definitely wasn't your stereotypical, like, bring the ball up, get everything set up, and run the offense kind of player. Now, that was still Booker and that was still Jalen Green. And that's the other part is the type of players that Booker's surrounded with now. Isolation scorers like Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green. Well, guess what? Like, to get those guys going, they need touches and they need touches in their spots, right? And Booker is way better at getting those guys touches in their spots than those guys are getting Booker touches in his spots against a defense that isn't geared up to stop him, right? So every time you look at Dillon Brooks isolating in the mid post, just think if Chris Paul was on this team or a point guard that the Suns could have drafted, that'll be another podcast episode for sure around draft time, is how many times did the Phoenix Suns screw up drafting Devin Booker's backcourt running mate? And I'll give you a hint. It's at least twice. De'Aaron Fox 1, Tyrese Halliburton 2, right? And I'm sure there's other guys on that list. I mean, you could just count Tyrese Maxey from that draft as well. Yeah, there's the Suns have had so many chances at getting a point guard in the draft, and they just haven't been able to get one. It's tough. It's been so tough. It really has. It's been so difficult because if the Suns just make one different decision where it's drafting Fox or drafting Tyrese Halliburton, we could be looking at Devin Booker's career with let's and I'm gonna say something crazy. It might not be one championship, it could be 2. It could be 2 championships, right? If the Suns had Tyrese Halliburton in the year that they made the finals, if he's the backup point guard, I think the Suns probably win. Because let's be honest, Chris Paul was super hurt that series. Couldn't dribble the basketball with one hand. After game 2, just was a complete shell of himself. Well, guess what? If you have Tyrese Halliburton, maybe maybe they can stomach that. Maybe Chris can play less minutes, right? I guess I'm just doing the segment now. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop now, right? Okay, here's something else to look at with Booker. So he's less aggressive in the first quarter. He's taking less mid-range shots the last 2 seasons than he has his entire career. Last 2 seasons, he's been around 17% of his points have come from the mid-range. That's a low number for Booker, who's one of these like savant scorers in the mid-range. He has not been that. He hasn't been the savant scorer like we saw early in his career. And he flashes it at times. And I wish he would be a lot more aggressive. I wish he would, honestly. Because I think him being aggressive sets a tone for the team and for the opponents that he's going against, right? I mean, there used to be Booker games where you knew that he was going to come in and score 40, 50, 60, and he would go on these runs months, weeks, days where you knew that he just wasn't going to miss. And it was going to be, I mean, just an array of shot making. It was going to be mid post isolation. It was going to be coming off screens and pulling up. It was going to be getting to the elbows and pulling up. It was going to be hard drives, stopping, hitting the little bank shots. It was going to be an array of shot making. That was what was so fun to watch about him, is that he was just, no matter where he was on the court, he could figure out a way to create space, create separation, and get off his shot. And part of me wonders, like, since he's lost a little bit of that athleticism, I think all of us would say, just by watching him the last 2 years, it does look like, for whatever reason, maybe we know he has soft tissue injuries. Maybe he's afraid to re-aggravate a hamstring that's been his bugaboo for the last 5-6 years of his career, or a groin. He's had groin issues as well. Like, maybe he's afraid to really go into full throttle, full gear, because he knows that if he does that too often, then he might be sitting out for 3-4 weeks. So I think there's a little bit of that too. I think he's a super smart guy. That's another reason why he's been my favorite player for so long. I think he's one of the smartest players in basketball. I mean, you just watch him play, you can tell that he's just seeing the game differently than a lot of other players. Now, sometimes it gets him into trouble because every time he drives, he thinks he's getting fouled. And let's be honest, he probably is. He's probably drawing contact. That's one thing that he really did well this season, was getting to the foul line. And in all honesty, I think him going from scoring 21% of his points at the foul line the last, 4 or 5 seasons, to now 27 points at the foul line this last season, the 25-26 season, I think it really saved him. It saved a lot of his advanced shooting numbers, I'll tell you that much, because he's only shooting 33% from 3 his last 2 seasons, and that just can't happen. I mean, it just can't. You want to be a superstar player in this league, you have to be lethal, not lethal from 3. You have to be respectable. You got to be above 35, and preferably 36, 37, 38 is right in the ballpark. When he was a first-team All-NBA player, he was a 38% three-point shooter. 38%. That's probably 20 more made threes, 25 more made threes. But it's not just about that. It's if he has the confidence to take more threes and make more threes, it opens up so much else in his game. It makes teams have to come out further against him. They can't box him in. It really opens up the mid-range for him, I believe. I believe it opens up the mid-range for him a ton. Now, so adding a three-point shot, not adding, but improving his three-point shot is going to be something that the Suns need Devin Booker to do, to continue to believe that they can build around this guy in the next 3 seasons where they could potentially be a contender. I mean, you look around the West, Thunder aren't going anywhere, Spurs aren't going anywhere. As long as Jokic is healthy, feels like the Nuggets are going to be at least a top 3 to 4 seed in the West. Luka's on the Lakers. If he's healthy, they're not going anywhere. It's going to be extremely difficult to build a team around Booker because all the other players on the teams that I just mentioned, their best players are better than Booker. And can Booker elevate his game to their level? Yes, he can. Can he do it as consistently as them? He, outside of a couple seasons with Chris Paul, at close to peak Chris Paul, that's the best we've ever seen from Devin Booker. And he might be, I mean, we could get into all-time conversations. Scottie Pippen was never a number one option, really. Still a top 50 player of all time. Still top 75 player of all time. Anthony Davis hasn't won a lick being the number one option, but is he a top 75 player of all time because he played with LeBron James and they had a really good run together? Yeah, probably. So, like, I think with Devin Booker, it's so hard to identify exactly what the pain points are, what the trigger points are for exactly why he's declined the last 2 seasons, but there's no argument that he's declined. If you've watched him at all, you know. The clutch numbers, I know John Voyata, the managing editor at Bright Side of the Sun, wrote an article about Jalen Brunson and Devin Booker's clutch numbers. Their overall numbers are pretty similar, but Brunson's way better in the clutch. Booker has more game winners, which, to Booker's credit, under 15 seconds left, there's very few guys in the league that I'd want taking that shot. But guess what? The reason why is because he doesn't really care about anything else on the court. He's not worried about getting Jalen Green the ball or Kevin Durant the ball or DeAndre Ayton the ball. He's like, I have one mission. That mission is to score. And that's Booker at his best. Now, can he do the other stuff? And is he pretty freaking good at doing the other stuff? He absolutely freaking is good at the other stuff. But the best Devin Booker is a guy who has one sole mission, and that's to be one of the best scorers that this game of basketball has ever seen. One of the most exciting players to watch because of how skilled he is. So that's Devin Booker in a nutshell. Do I think that later on in his career he can get to, back to all NBA level? I do. It starts with the 3-point shooting, and it probably comes down to, can they find guys to surround him that can take off the playmaking and shot creation load on offense, and not individual shot creation, but team shot creation, because that's been Booker's main assignment the past 2 years, and it's a lot, and you can kind of see that it's making him a player that we don't want him to be necessarily. Okay, last topic that we'll get into, and sorry guys, I know this one's going a little long, but got a few things to get off my chest, especially the Diamondbacks, man. But lastly, we're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals quarterback controversy. And we're going to start with, is it a controversy? Yes. Because when Mike LaFleur, that's going to be a fun one to say, Mike LaFleur gave his end of OTA mandatory minicamp press conference, he didn't name a starter. So it's a controversy. Now, is it one of the more lame quarterback controversies ever? It probably could be. I would say that a quarterback battle between Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck is probably one of the least sexy quarterback battles of all time. And now hear me out. Like, yes, obviously there's fantasy implications, right? If Carson's the day one starter, then you might not be taking Trey McBride and Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison that high. Probably taking them a little bit higher if Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback. So I'll give you that. But as far as wins and losses go, I'm not sure if it matters. I actually am pretty sure that it doesn't matter. The Cardinals are going to win 3 to 5 games this year. They're last in Super Bowl odds largely because of the division they play in. And it's going to be a difficult task for the Cardinals to really do much of anything this season. But I will say this. They're assembling a squad where if Carson Beck is good, and this is why it's so important that he plays this season, if they figure out that Carson Beck is good, then that means that they can take Jeremiah Smith next season. Or they can trade that pick for a ton of assets to really, really start building for the future and building to win, right? And so Carson Beck is going to play this year. 10 games, 8 games, 6 games, all 17. I don't know. And here's what makes this situation even worse, right? Is that it's just been completely mismanaged too. I think that's the most frustrating thing about it. I don't think it's a frustrating thing that we are in this situation where there is a quarterback battle against for Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck. Obviously, I'd like to have better names on the roster, but when you take Kyler Murray first with the first overall pick, you have to give him 7-8 years to prove himself. He didn't. He didn't prove himself. He didn't. Cardinals gave him every chance they could to prove himself. He didn't really show it after the 2021 season. 2022 season. Injuries is a part of that. Maybe he'll turn around with Minnesota. We don't know. And honestly, as Cardinals fans, it doesn't matter because it was never going to work here. And that's the decision that everyone came to. Fans, team, I think Kyler Murray also came to that conclusion as well. So like it's okay that the Cardinals are in this position. But what's wrong is how they've handled this quarterback controversy, right? So here's Jacoby Brissett's argument to be the starting quarterback. Last year, he threw for 3,366 yards, 23 passing touchdowns, and 8 interceptions in 12 starts. So that's the pros. Good numbers, pretty much by the book. Numbers that most teams would sign up for from their starting quarterback, right? A lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, a fair amount of interceptions, but enough that you're willing to live with the 8, right? But unfortunately, Jacoby Brissett was 1-11, and if you didn't turn your TV off in games against the Rams and the Seahawks, he wasn't doing a whole lot in the first and second quarters. A lot of those yards and a lot of those touchdowns came when the game was already out of reach, especially at the end of the season. Now, don't get me wrong. There were games where, man, the Cardinals were right in it, and it felt like week after week we just would keep losing these one-score games. I mean, the Colts game comes to mind. Man, we were right there with the Seahawks. There were a few other games as well that come to my mind. Obviously, they lost a couple fluke games with the Tennessee Titans game. It was just a miserable way to lose a football game and kind of ended Gannon's career in a lot of ways. Probably it didn't end Kyler's, although he didn't do great. So yeah, there's the argument to start Jacoby Brissett. And there's the argument that, this should be a battle. And another reason why it probably should be a battle is Gardner Minshew. Gardner's also a career journeyman, just like Jacoby Brissett. He started in his fair share of games in the NFL so far, and he has this captivating personality. He's got this ability to communicate to people, communicate with people, to lead people, to get people to buy into his aura. He lives in a van, right? Like, it's hard not to love this guy. Guy loves football, and you can just tell every time he talks about football, you can just tell how much he loves football. This is a guy who tried to break his hand back in the day so that he could get an extra year of eligibility through like an injury red shirt. That's how much this guy loves football. Like he's crazy. He's crazy. And that's why guys love him, is because he's just an awesome guy in the locker room. And then obviously I gave the argument for Carson Beck is whether he's good or not, you have to find out. And you have to find out right away if this is a guy that you could see being the face of the franchise, the starting quarterback of your franchise in the future, because you either have to draft a quarterback or Jeremiah Smith in the next draft. So you have to find out if Carson's the guy. So there's the three cases to be made for each guy, and all three have solid cases. And Gardner's grew especially the more time Jacoby missed holding out during the voluntary workouts. Because according to reports, Jacoby Brissett was told he was the day one starter this offseason, even after the Cardinals signed Gardner Minshew to more money. So here's the thing. If he's the day one starter, but he's not the highest paid quarterback on the roster, then fix that. And if he's not the highest paid quarterback on the roster, then tell him he's not the day one starter and tell him he's going to go out and earn it. And then at least, make sure to guarantee his contract the day he becomes the day one starting quarterback, right? Because I think if they had handled it either of these ways, where the moment you signed Gardner Minshew, if you really meant what you said to Jacoby about him being the day one starter after missing out on Malik Willis, then go ahead and give him a pay raise so that he doesn't look at Gardner Minshew and go, I'm the starter, but he's making more money than me. It's like if you're working in a typical job, right? If you're making more money than your boss is probably not very happy about it, right? Or if you have a coworker with way more tenure or who's doing, more for the company and you're getting paid more than him, that guy's probably going to have a problem. So I absolutely 100% understand where Jacoby Brissett's coming from. Now, here's the thing. If Jacoby Brissett is asking for $20 million, then Cardinals aren't going to pay that guy $20 million because guess what, dude? You went 1-11 last year as a starting quarterback. You had good numbers, but you went 1-11 as a starting quarterback. Now, he still has a better argument that Gardner Minshew does, just from his playing career so far. But you lost a lot of time working with guys. Like, now Gardner's built up a lot of reps with Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison when he's been healthy, Jeremiah Love. He's going to be a feature, I hope, in the pass game, especially in the McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur offense. That's going to be one of the most fascinating things to watch. Is this guy's going to pull from Shanahan and McVay and his brother. And don't get me wrong, all those guys run pretty similar offenses, but he's going to make this like baby because he's worked with all of them. And so you're missing out on, learning the playbook, which I have no doubt that Jacoby Brissett is going to be fine learning the playbook long term. But it does crack the door open for someone to come in and freaking build some chemistry with guys, impress the coaching staff. Like, it's football. Even if you are the day one starter, if you come out in training camp and you don't look like the day one starter, they'll change their mind. And it seems like they already have changed their mind about you being the day one starter. But it's also not Jacoby Brissett's fault because the Cardinals mishandled it and he was caught in the middle of it. So, Cardinals, if he is a day one starter, pay him. Not a lot more, but I think you just fully guarantee what's on his contract. Make sure he's well and above the highest paid quarterback on the roster. Go ahead and do that and get it all over with, or just say, hey, you're not the day one starter, so go out there and earn it. And if you do earn it, then maybe we talk about guaranteeing the contract, right? Or maybe there's an extension for him to come back one more season, right? Because this is the last year of his deal. So that's the Jacoby Brissett saga in a nutshell. It doesn't truly matter because the Cardinals aren't going to win a ton of games anyway. But what does matter is this: is that the Cardinals screwed it up. Management screwed it up. How they handled it, financially, or by telling Jacoby he's going to be the starter, even though they didn't mean it, they screwed it up, and it cost them valuable reps. Now they have a guy holding out for money, and as much as players, are told to ignore it by other players, well, it's hard when it's the starting quarterback or the supposed starting quarterback isn't there, and you have to build chemistry and reps with someone. You have to learn the new playbook together with someone. That guy wasn't Jacoby Brissett this offseason. It was Gardner Minshew. So the Cardinals just completely misplayed their hand. They played it completely wrong. And it's why, as a Cardinals fan, until something changes with the way Michael Buildwell runs the program, the way Monty Austinfort, who I had high hopes for when they originally brought him in from Tennessee, I had high hopes that he could come in and build a winner in Arizona. I had hopes that he could do that. He hasn't been able to do it so far. And if this is the brain trust that screwed up this Jacoby Brissett situation, that really didn't do a great job with the Kyler Murray situation, with the Jonathan Gannon situations, a lot of different situations. It just doesn't give me any hope for the future, even though the Cardinals, on paper, after the 2027 draft, should have either the starting quarterback for the future, one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time in Jeremiah Smith, alongside Jeremiah Love, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Trey McBride. I mean, that is a skill position room that most teams in the NFL trade places with the Cardinals. And the Cardinals could be in that position in 2027, but unfortunately, even with all that skill that they could potentially have, I don't know if it's ever going to work out because Michael Bidwell's running the show. Because Monty Austinfort hasn't shown us that he can put together a roster that can win over 8 games, 9 games in the NFL. And that's unfortunate. And that's life as a Cardinals fan. So, with that, thank you all for watching or listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star review if you're listening to it in podcast form. Follow us on social media at AZ Sports Podcast or AZ_sports _podcast. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Hope you guys will start watching, continue watching, and follow me on this journey through this never-ending and always entertaining landscape of AZ Sports.